The denial. The day had started with the kind of morning that whispered promises of success and celebration. The city gleamed under the soft morning light as Veronica Mitchell, one of the wealthiest black entrepreneurs in the country, stepped out of her sleek black limousine onto the marble steps of the opulent Sterling Grand Hotel. Wearing a perfectly tailored white suit that accentuated her confidence, Veronica was poised for a quiet week of relaxation, a reward for a recent business acquisition that had taken years of strategic planning and tireless work. For years, Veronica had carved her way through the business world, building a real estate empire that stretched across the country. Her achievements weren't a product of inheritance or luck. Veronica was the daughter of two hardworking parents who had raised her in a small town with limited resources but boundless ambition. From starting her career in a cramped office to landing on the cover of Forbes, she was living proof that grit and vision could make the impossible possible. But despite her successes, there were always moments that reminded her how far society had yet to come. As she approached the hotel's grand entrance, Veronica felt an uncomfortable flutter in her stomach. It was the familiar sensation of being watched, judged, and weighed, all before anyone even knew her name. Yet she dismissed the feeling, expecting to be welcomed as the esteemed guest she was. Her assistant, Clara, followed closely, managing their luggage with practiced precision and a reassuring smile. "Reservation for Veronica Mitchell," Clara said confidently, presenting her confirmation to the receptionist, a young man with a polished appearance and a seemingly genuine smile. "Good morning, Ms. Mitchell," the receptionist greeted, tapping at his keyboard. But as he scanned the screen, his expression shifted subtly, and he glanced up, a slight hesitation flickering in his eyes. Veronica had seen that look before, a mix of doubt and discomfort she had grown accustomed to navigating. She straightened, maintaining her composed expression, but the receptionist's next words echoed in the quiet lobby. "I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell, but I don't see any reservation under that name," he said, avoiding her gaze. Perhaps there was a mix-up. Clara's brows knit together. "That can't be right. We confirmed it twice over the phone just yesterday," she replied, her tone calm but firm. The receptionist shifted uncomfortably, his voice dripping with an apologetic tone that felt insincere. "Unfortunately, we're fully booked at the moment. I'm afraid we won't be able to accommodate you today." Veronica felt a surge of anger. She knew this game. The polite dismissal masked as inconvenience, the gentle words that pushed her aside without causing a public scene. Clara looked ready to argue, but Veronica raised a hand to silence her. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but cool. "We'll find accommodations elsewhere." Turning on her heel, Veronica exited the hotel, head held high. Once outside, Clara burst out, barely containing her frustration. "Veronica, this is absurd. We could expose them, call the media, or even get a lawyer involved. They can't treat you like this." Veronica took a deep breath, calming the storm of emotion within her. She had fought battles like this all her life, and she had learned to choose her moments. "Clara, we'll handle this differently. They're small-minded. I won't let them take this moment from me. But this isn't the end of it." That night, from her suite at a nearby hotel, Veronica sat with her laptop and a cup of coffee, her mind spinning with plans. The Sterling Grand might have denied her, but she'd find a way to make a statement, to show them that discrimination couldn't overshadow her success. She began researching the hotel's financials, finding small hints of vulnerability. As it turned out, the Sterling Grand had overextended itself in renovations over the past few years and was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. It was in that moment, seated at a small desk under the dim light of a lamp, that her idea took root. The plan unfolds. Veronica sat in her hotel suite that night, her laptop open and glowing as she combed through financial reports, market analysis, and real estate records. The Sterling Grand might have turned her away at its doors, but she knew how to find her way into any space she desired, if not as a guest, then as something far more powerful. The hum of the city's nightlife outside her window echoed her own determination as she uncovered the truth about the Sterling Grand. It didn't take long to find the cracks in the prestigious hotel's facade. Despite its grand chandeliers, marble floors, and high-end clientele, the Sterling Grand was drowning in debt. A quick look into their ownership history revealed that the current management had struggled with high maintenance costs and a plummeting guest retention rate. They had invested heavily in luxurious renovations that couldn't quite mask the underlying issues, and their profits had been sliding for months. Veronica's lips curled into a smile as the pieces began to fall into place. This was no longer about one moment of discrimination. It was about seizing an opportunity to turn a painful experience into a moment of triumph, one that would resonate beyond the confines of that single hotel lobby. Clara knocked softly on the suite door and entered, holding a small tray with a pot of tea and a plate of sandwiches. She knew her boss's focus often overtook her basic needs, and Clara, having worked with Veronica for over a decade, knew when it was time to intervene. "Thought you might need some fuel," Clara said, setting the tray down and glancing at Veronica's screen. "I see you're digging up some dirt." Veronica chuckled, her eyes still scanning lines of data, more like looking for treasure. "It turns out our friends at the Sterling Grand aren't as solid as they'd like the world to believe." Clara raised an eyebrow. "So, you're thinking of buying it?" "Buying it. I plan to turn it into something better than they could ever imagine," Veronica replied, leaning back in her chair. "But first, I need to make sure it's a sound investment." As the hours stretched into the early morning, Veronica continued her research. She found potential investors, ran cost projections, and mapped out a restructuring plan that would both increase the hotel's profitability and set new standards for diversity and inclusion. By dawn, she was confident that she had everything she needed to make an offer that the hotel's current owners couldn't refuse. The next day, Veronica made a call to her lawyer, Mark Porter, an astute negotiator who had helped her close some of her most complex deals. Mark had known Veronica since her early days, back when she was just starting to acquire properties in small neighborhoods. He knew her tenacity and had watched her build an empire out of sheer willpower. "Mark, I need you to reach out to the owners of the Sterling Grand," she said, keeping her tone casual but resolute. "I'd like to make them an offer, one that will solve all their problems." Mark laughed, recognizing the fire in her voice. "Sounds like they don't know what's about to hit them." "Oh, they have no idea," Veronica replied with a sly smile. "And I want to keep it that way until the papers are signed. No leaks, no public announcements. Let's do this quietly." The negotiations moved faster than expected. Mark's team handled the back and forth with the Sterling Grand's board, and with each round of talks, it became increasingly clear that they were desperate for a lifeline. The board saw Veronica's offer not just as a buyout, but as a rescue operation, a way to salvage the hotel's prestige and avoid bankruptcy. Within a week, she had secured the deal, and the contract was signed. The Sterling Grand was now under Veronica's ownership, though her identity remained a well-kept secret. She wanted to unveil her new role at the right moment, when it would have the most impact. In the meantime, she moved forward with her plans to implement sweeping changes in the hotel's policies and operations. A few days later, Veronica visited the Sterling Grand again, this time with a different agenda. She walked through the front doors, her head held high, her posture confident. The same receptionist who had turned her away stood behind the counter, her polished smile masking the hint of confusion as she saw Veronica approaching. "Good afternoon," Veronica greeted her, her tone even but commanding. The receptionist's smile faltered. Good afternoon. How can I help you?" Veronica gave a slight nod. "I'm here to meet with Robert Stevens, the manager. Let him know Veronica Mitchell is here, please." The receptionist's eyes widened, her cheeks paling as she recognized the name. She stammered, "Oh, of course. One moment, Ms. Mitchell." As the receptionist made the call, Veronica surveyed the lobby, her mind already buzzing with ideas on how to transform the space. She saw beyond the chandeliers and marble floors, envisioning a place that welcomed guests of all backgrounds, where the staff were trained to offer true hospitality instead of rehearsed politeness. Moments later, Robert Stevens appeared, his face registering surprise as he saw Veronica. He approached her with a hesitant smile, clearly uncomfortable but trying to mask it with professionalism. "Ms. Mitchell, it's a pleasure to see you again," he said, extending his hand. Veronica shook his hand, her gaze unwavering. "Likewise, Mr. Stevens. Let's talk about the future of the Sterling Grand." They sat in his office, where Veronica explained her vision for the hotel. She spoke of inclusivity, of creating a space where every guest felt valued and respected, regardless of their background. Robert listened, nodding along, though his face betrayed hints of skepticism and discomfort. When she finally revealed that she was the new owner, Robert's expression shifted from surprise to shock. For a brief moment, he stammered, but Veronica continued smoothly, letting him know that she expected the staff to undergo diversity training and implement new service standards. She made it clear that everyone, from the cleaning crew to the front desk, would be held accountable for upholding the hotel's new values. As the meeting concluded, Veronica left Robert in his office, his mind clearly racing. She knew that change wouldn't happen overnight, but she was confident that her presence would be felt throughout the hotel's culture. Her quiet acquisition was more than just a business decision. It was a message to the world that no one, no matter how wealthy or powerful, should be treated as less than. On her way out, Veronica noticed the same receptionist who had given her such a hard time. The young woman looked down, clearly uncomfortable, but Veronica approached her with a calm, steady gaze. "I hope you'll find this place a better environment to work in," Veronica said gently. "We all deserve to feel respected in our workplaces, just as we deserve respect when we're guests." The receptionist looked up, her eyes filled with uncertainty, and nodded. Veronica could see a flicker of understanding, maybe even remorse, in her expression. It wasn't about humiliating anyone. It was about creating a place where everyone understood that respect went both ways. As Veronica left the Sterling Grand that day, she felt a sense of satisfaction unlike any she had ever experienced. She had faced the sting of discrimination head-on and had transformed it into a powerful moment of change. The hotel that had once shut her out would now be a beacon of inclusivity, a symbol of progress in an industry often resistant to it. And this was just the beginning. Rebuilding from the inside. Veronica's vision for the Sterling Grand wasn't just a change in ownership. It was an overhaul in philosophy. She wanted the hotel to embody the values she championed throughout her career: respect, equality, and dignity for all. The Sterling Grand would no longer be an elite fortress guarded by a veneer of luxury and exclusivity. Instead, it would become a place of genuine hospitality that welcomed people from all walks of life. She set her sights on creating a space where anyone, regardless of background, could walk through its doors and feel like they belonged. Her first step was a meeting with the entire staff, from executives to cleaning crew, gathered in the hotel's grand ballroom. The room buzzed with murmurs of curiosity and tension. Word had spread quickly that the hotel had a new owner, and though most staff members didn't know who she was, they sensed that change was coming. Veronica, dressed in a sophisticated yet approachable ensemble, took the stage with a calm confidence that immediately commanded attention. She began, "I know many of you may be wondering what this transition means for the Sterling Grand. Today I want to introduce myself, not just as the new owner, but as someone deeply invested in the success of this hotel and the people who work here." The room fell silent as she continued. "I am Veronica Mitchell, and I am here because I believe in the power of hospitality to break down barriers and build bridges. I know some of you have concerns, maybe even doubts, but I ask for your open minds as we embark on a new journey together." There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. People leaned forward, sensing that this was not just another corporate speech. Veronica didn't shy away from acknowledging the need for improvement. She spoke about her experience being turned away at the very doors of the Sterling Grand. The sting of that rejection and her resolve to prevent anyone from experiencing that same humiliation. "You may wonder why I've chosen to share this story with you," she continued, her voice strong yet warm. "It's because the Sterling Grand has the potential to be something remarkable, a place where everyone feels welcome. But that will require each of us to rethink how we approach hospitality." Robert Stevens, the manager who had dismissed her on that fateful day, sat in the back of the room, his expression a mixture of discomfort and reflection. As Veronica spoke, he realized that her intentions weren't rooted in retribution. Instead, she was offering an opportunity, for him and for the entire staff, to become part of something transformative. Veronica outlined her plan for the hotel, including training programs focused on diversity and inclusion, workshops on genuine customer service, and a mentorship initiative that would provide career advancement opportunities to staff members from marginalized backgrounds. She stressed that these changes were not merely for appearances, but were essential for the hotel's long-term success. One of her more radical moves was the creation of a guest advisory board, composed of a diverse group of people from different socioeconomic, racial, and cultural backgrounds. This board would offer feedback and hold the hotel accountable for maintaining its commitment to inclusivity. Veronica wanted the Sterling Grand to be known not just as a luxury destination, but as a pioneer in redefining what true luxury meant: respect, empathy, and excellence in service. After the meeting, the staff left the ballroom with mixed reactions. Some were skeptical, others hopeful, but all were intrigued. For Robert, it was a moment of introspection. He couldn't ignore the quiet shame he felt from their previous interaction, but he also recognized an opportunity to learn, grow, and redeem himself. Over the next few weeks, Veronica was a constant presence at the hotel. She met with every department, getting to know the people who made the Sterling Grand operate smoothly. She listened to their concerns, their aspirations, and the challenges they faced. She paid attention not just to the executives, but to the overlooked workers, the janitors, the kitchen staff, and the doormen. Veronica knew that for real change to take root, it had to be a collective effort, and she was determined to lead by example. One of her first projects was with the housekeeping team, who often felt invisible within the hotel's grand halls. Veronica spent an afternoon working alongside them, cleaning rooms, changing linens, and scrubbing floors. Her willingness to roll up her sleeves surprised and impressed the staff, who weren't used to seeing someone in her position show such humility. Maria, a longtime member of the housekeeping team, was particularly touched by Veronica's gesture. She pulled Veronica aside during a break, her eyes warm with appreciation. "I've been working here for 15 years, Maria said softly, "and in all that time, I've never seen anyone in management treat us like this. Thank you for recognizing us." Veronica smiled and squeezed Maria's hand. "Maria, you and your team are the backbone of this hotel. Without your hard work, none of this would be possible. I want you to know that we see you, we value you, and we're here to support you." These moments of genuine connection began to ripple through the hotel, inspiring a shift in how the staff interacted with one another. Veronica's approach was dismantling the invisible hierarchy that had once defined the Sterling Grand. Employees who had never spoken beyond formal exchanges were now engaging in deeper conversations, learning each other's stories, and realizing that they all shared a common goal. But not everyone welcomed the changes with open arms. Some of the older executives were resistant, viewing Veronica's initiatives as disruptive to the hotel's prestige. They saw the advisory board and diversity training as unnecessary, fearing that it would dilute the Sterling Grand's elite image. During a meeting with the senior management team, one of the executives, Charles Hampton, voiced his concerns. A tall, silver-haired man who had worked at the hotel for over 2 decades, Charles was respected but rigid in his beliefs. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, choosing his words carefully, "while I appreciate your enthusiasm for change, I must express my concern about some of these new initiatives. The Sterling Grand has a reputation to uphold. Catering to a broader demographic could undermine the exclusivity that our clientele expects." Veronica held his gaze, unfazed. "Charles, I understand where you're coming from, but I believe that true exclusivity isn't about who we exclude. It's about the level of service we offer to everyone who walks through our doors. Luxury isn't just about chandeliers and marble floors. It's about making every guest feel respected and valued." Charles shifted uncomfortably, but he couldn't argue with the confidence and clarity in her voice. Veronica's words were a challenge to the outdated perceptions that had held the hotel back. She knew it would take time to win over skeptics, but she was patient, confident that her approach would speak for itself. As the weeks turned into months, the impact of Veronica's leadership became increasingly evident. Guests began to notice the difference: the warmth in the staff's greetings, the attention to detail, the sense of unity and pride that permeated the hotel. The Sterling Grand's reputation began to evolve, attracting a broader, more diverse clientele who appreciated the unique blend of luxury and inclusivity the hotel offered. One evening, as Veronica walked through the lobby, she noticed a young black couple checking in, their expressions filled with excitement and awe, as they took in the grandeur around them. She watched as the receptionist, the same one who had once turned her away, greeted them warmly, ensuring that they felt welcomed and valued. It was a small moment, but it symbolized the transformation Veronica had set in motion. The Sterling Grand was no longer just a hotel. It was becoming a beacon of change, a place where anyone, regardless of background, could experience the very best of hospitality. For Veronica, this was more than just a business victory. It was a testament to the power of resilience, vision, and a commitment to challenging the status quo. And as she walked through the bustling lobby, she knew that the journey was far from over. There were still minds to change, barriers to break, and lessons to teach. But for the first time, she felt that the Sterling Grand was truly hers, a place where her values, her vision, and her heart had found a home. Breaking new ground. Veronica's transformation of the Sterling Grand was well underway, but she knew that the true measure of success would come not only from reshaping the hotel's internal culture, but from how the hotel interacted with and impacted the larger community. Her vision was to make the Sterling Grand a symbol of change that reached beyond its luxurious walls, a beacon of hope, a place where people could gather, learn, and connect. To achieve this, she decided to introduce several new initiatives that would open the hotel's doors in ways it had never seen before. The first step was to create community engagement programs that could bridge the gap between the hotel and the city it called home. Veronica wanted the Sterling Grand to be more than a destination for the elite. She wanted it to be a gathering place that served all members of the community. She envisioned workshops, events, and cultural showcases that would attract people from all walks of life. Her goal was ambitious, and she knew it would face resistance, but her determination was unwavering. One crisp morning, Veronica gathered her senior staff, including managers and department heads, in the conference room to discuss her plans. Robert Stevens, who had initially been skeptical of Veronica's leadership, was now one of her strongest supporters. Over time, he had come to respect her integrity and her ability to execute on her promises. He had seen firsthand the positive changes she had implemented, and he admired the way she treated every employee, regardless of their position. As Veronica outlined her latest initiative, a few eyebrows rose around the table. "We're going to host a monthly community open house," she explained, her tone both warm and resolute. "Each month, we'll invite local artists, musicians, and small businesses to showcase their work here in our hotel. We'll have free workshops and cultural events, and we'll open our ballroom to the public at no cost." A murmur rippled through the room. The Sterling Grand had long been a private oasis, a place designed to shield its guests from the bustling city beyond its walls. The idea of opening its doors to the broader community was unprecedented, and for some, it was uncomfortable. One of the department heads, Eleanor Klein, voiced her concerns. "Ms. Mitchell, with all due respect, are you sure this is the right direction? The Sterling Grand has always been known for its exclusivity. If we start hosting community events, we might risk alienating our regular clientele. Some guests prefer a private experience. Veronica met Eleanor's gaze, understanding her concerns but remaining firm. Eleanor, I believe that true luxury is rooted in inclusion, not exclusion. The Sterling Grand will still offer an exclusive experience for our guests. But it's time we also give back to the community that surrounds us. We have a responsibility to uplift and support the people who make this city what it is. This isn't just about business. It's about making a positive impact. Robert nodded in agreement. Ms. Mitchell has a point. Our hotel is in the heart of this city, but for too long, it's been disconnected from it. Engaging with the community could elevate our brand in ways we haven't considered. After a moment's hesitation, Eleanor gave a reluctant nod, realizing that Veronica was unlikely to change her mind. The other department heads began to see the potential benefits as well, and the room filled with ideas and excitement. By the end of the meeting, Veronica had garnered enough support to move forward with the initiative, and plans for the first community open house were soon underway. In the weeks leading up to the event, the hotel staff transformed the ballroom and lobby spaces. Artisans and small business owners from the city were invited to set up booths, showcasing everything from handmade jewelry and pottery to local food delicacies and artworks. Musicians from nearby colleges volunteered to perform live, and a celebrated local chef was invited to offer a cooking demonstration. Word spread quickly, and excitement built throughout the community. Veronica personally invited several youth organizations and schools, hoping to inspire young people with a glimpse of opportunity and creativity. She also reached out to nonprofits that supported underprivileged communities, offering them space at the open house to showcase their missions and gain support. The event was becoming more than a hotel showcase. It was evolving into a celebration of the city's diverse and vibrant culture. The night before the community open house, Veronica walked through the transformed spaces, her heart swelling with pride as she took in the colorful booths and elegant decor. She knew that tomorrow would mark an important chapter not only for the Sterling Grand, but also for herself. It was a risk, but one she was willing to take. The following day, the hotel doors opened to an enthusiastic crowd. Families, students, artists, and professionals from all backgrounds filled the lobby and ballroom, admiring the displays and savoring the atmosphere. The sight of children laughing, artists sharing their work, and people from different communities mingling together brought an electric energy to the hotel that Veronica had never experienced before. Veronica moved through the crowd, greeting visitors and listening to their stories. She noticed a young girl standing in front of a large painting by a local artist, her eyes wide with wonder. Veronica knelt down to her level and smiled. "Do you like the painting?" she asked, her voice gentle. The girl nodded, still mesmerized. "It's so beautiful. I want to be an artist too, someday." Veronica's heart warmed at the girl's words. "You can be anything you want to be," she said. "If you keep dreaming big, one day your art might be here in this hotel too." As the day progressed, Veronica received countless words of appreciation from the community members who had long felt disconnected from the Sterling Grand. People who had never set foot inside the hotel now found themselves welcomed with open arms, and the gratitude they expressed was deeply moving. For some, it was the first time they felt truly valued in a space that had once seemed inaccessible. Near the end of the event, an older gentleman approached Veronica. He was dressed in a neatly pressed suit, but his shoes were scuffed, and his hands were calloused, signs of a lifetime of hard work. He introduced himself as Samuel Taylor, a retired factory worker who had spent his entire life in the neighborhood. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "I've lived in this city for over 70 years. I've seen places like this rise up, and I've seen them shut out people like me. But today, you've done something I never thought I'd see. Thank you for opening these doors to all of us." Veronica reached out to shake his hand, humbled by his words. "Mr. Taylor, it's an honor to have you here. This hotel belongs to all of us now." He looked around, a tear glistening in his eye. I hope you know how much this means to us, Ms. Mitchell. This city needed someone like you." As the evening drew to a close, Veronica took a moment to herself, stepping outside onto the hotel's grand balcony that overlooked the city. The lights twinkled below, and she reflected on the journey that had led her here. The Sterling Grand was no longer just a place of luxury for a select few. It had become a symbol of progress, resilience, and a testament to the power of one person's vision. But she knew there was still more work to be done. The community open house had been a success, but Veronica was already thinking of ways to build on this momentum. She wanted to start mentorship programs for young entrepreneurs, offer scholarships to local students, and create partnerships with local businesses to uplift the neighborhood. Veronica's heart swelled with a profound sense of purpose. She had turned a moment of rejection into a movement of acceptance, a single painful experience into a legacy of inclusivity. The Sterling Grand had been transformed from a fortress of exclusivity into a bridge that connected people, cultures, and dreams. For Veronica, this was only the beginning. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she welcomed it with open arms. Facing resistance. Despite the overwhelming success of the community open house, not everyone at the Sterling Grand shared Veronica's vision for change. As the hotel opened its doors to the public, transforming into a more inclusive space, a faction within the executive team grew increasingly uneasy. Some senior staff members had thrived under the old model of exclusivity and felt threatened by the new direction Veronica was taking. Chief among the dissenters was Charles Hampton, the head of guest services, a man with nearly 3 decades of experience at the Sterling Grand. Charles took pride in maintaining the hotel's exclusivity, which he believed was its defining quality. To him, Veronica's changes were not only disruptive but dangerous, threatening to tarnish the hotel's reputation as a sanctuary for the elite. One evening, as Veronica reviewed upcoming partnership opportunities in her office, there was a knock on the door. Charles entered, his expression stern but carefully composed. Veronica gestured for him to sit, sensing that he had come to discuss more than just routine matters. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, his tone formal and measured, "I wanted to speak with you about the recent events we've been hosting, particularly the community open house and the partnerships with local businesses." Veronica nodded, setting her papers aside and giving him her full attention. "Go on, Charles. I'm listening." Charles cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable but determined to voice his concerns. "I understand your intentions, and I appreciate your vision for community involvement. However, I'm concerned that we may be compromising the Sterling Grand's brand. This hotel has always been a place of exclusivity, a sanctuary for those who seek privacy and a certain standard of clientele. By opening our doors to the broader public, we may risk alienating our core guests." Veronica listened calmly, noting the underlying fear in his voice. She had anticipated this resistance, especially from those who had built their careers on the Sterling Grand's traditional model. Charles represented a perspective that valued exclusivity over inclusivity, and while she respected his dedication to the hotel's legacy, she knew she couldn't let it limit her vision. "I understand your concerns, Charles," she replied, her tone both firm and empathetic. "But I believe that exclusivity should be redefined. Our core guests, the ones who value true luxury, will appreciate a place that welcomes diversity and celebrates unity. People come to the Sterling Grand for an experience they can't find anywhere else, and I believe that experience can be enriched by embracing different perspectives and backgrounds." Charles shifted in his chair, visibly struggling to accept her words. "But our regular clients, they come here for privacy, for a certain atmosphere. They want to feel that they're part of an exclusive circle." Veronica leaned forward, her gaze steady. "Luxury is no longer about excluding people, Charles. It's about elevating them. We're creating a new standard of exclusivity, one that isn't based on closing doors, but on raising the bar for what hospitality can be. I truly believe that we can create an environment where both our loyal guests and new visitors feel valued." Charles remained silent for a moment, his face a mix of skepticism and contemplation. He had to admit that the recent changes had generated positive buzz, bringing in new guests who were genuinely enthusiastic about the hotel's new direction. But he couldn't shake the fear that this shift would fundamentally alter the identity of the Sterling Grand. He stood, straightening his suit jacket. "I hope you're right, Ms. Mitchell," he said, his voice respectful but cautious. "I only want what's best for this hotel." "So do I, Charles," Veronica replied gently. "Thank you for sharing your thoughts with me. Change is never easy, but I have confidence that we're on the right path." As Charles left, Veronica felt a pang of empathy for him. He was a man who had dedicated his life to the Sterling Grand, who had witnessed its evolution over decades. But she also knew that true leadership meant navigating resistance, especially when it stemmed from fear of the unknown. She couldn't afford to let hesitation stall her progress, and she trusted that, in time, even the skeptics would come to appreciate the transformation. However, as the weeks went on, Veronica noticed subtle signs of opposition from within. Some of the senior staff members were slower to adopt the new practices she had implemented. A few deliberately avoided attending the diversity training sessions she'd introduced, and others seemed to communicate their discontent through small acts of passive resistance. Her vision was working, but the pushback reminded her that not everyone would accept change willingly. Determined to address the issue directly, Veronica decided to hold a roundtable discussion with her senior team, encouraging open and honest dialogue. She wanted them to feel that their voices mattered, even if they disagreed with her approach. She believed that true unity could only be achieved by fostering a culture of transparency and mutual respect. The day of the meeting arrived, and the conference room buzzed with a tense energy. Veronica began by reiterating her vision for the Sterling Grand, emphasizing her commitment to honoring the hotel's legacy while evolving it for a new era. She then opened the floor to her team, inviting them to share their thoughts. One by one, her team members expressed a mix of support, hesitance, and in some cases, frustration. Eleanor voiced concerns about maintaining the quality of service, while Robert, having come around to Veronica's vision, offered insights on how inclusivity had actually improved guest satisfaction. The conversation was productive, but exposed a deep divide within the team. Finally, Charles spoke up, his tone respectful but resolute. "Ms. Mitchell, I respect what you're trying to achieve, but I'm struggling to reconcile this new direction with the values that made the Sterling Grand what it is today. I understand the importance of inclusivity, but I fear that we're straying too far from the traditions that made this hotel unique." Veronica considered his words carefully. She had anticipated resistance, but she hadn't realized just how deeply some team members clung to the old values. She understood that for Charles, the hotel was more than a place of work. It was a symbol of prestige, a legacy he had helped shape. "Charles, I appreciate your dedication to the Sterling Grand's history," she replied thoughtfully. "But history is only meaningful if it evolves. Traditions are valuable, but they can't hold us back from growth. I truly believe that we can preserve what makes this hotel special while adapting to the values of today." Charles nodded, though his expression remained guarded. Veronica could sense his lingering doubts, but she also saw a flicker of acceptance. He wasn't entirely convinced, but he was willing to try. Over the next few weeks, Veronica continued to engage with her team, organizing workshops, one-on-one meetings, and informal gatherings to foster unity. Slowly but surely, the atmosphere began to shift. Those who had initially resisted her vision started to understand her perspective, seeing firsthand the positive impact of the new initiatives. One evening, Veronica found herself in the lobby, observing the bustling scene around her. Guests from different backgrounds mingled, the staff exchanged genuine smiles, and the lobby was alive with a vibrancy that hadn't existed before. It was as if the Sterling Grand had been infused with new life, its old barriers dissolving to reveal something more authentic and enduring. Just then, Charles approached her, a rare smile softening his normally stoic expression. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, "I wanted to thank you for encouraging us to look at things differently. I admit I was skeptical, But seeing how much our guests appreciate the changes has opened my eyes. I may not have fully embraced it yet, but I can see that this hotel has become something extraordinary." Veronica smiled, feeling a surge of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Charles. Change is difficult, especially when it means letting go of something familiar. But I'm proud of how far we've come together. This hotel is a testament to everyone here, including you." As Charles walked away, Veronica felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced resistance, navigated doubt, and overcome fear, not by bulldozing through opposition, but by inviting her team to see the vision through her eyes. The Sterling Grand was becoming more than just a hotel. It was becoming a symbol of resilience, unity, and transformation. And as Veronica looked around, taking in the thriving energy of the space she had worked so hard to rebuild, she knew that her journey was just beginning. The Sterling Grand was now a place where anyone, from any walk of life, could find a piece of themselves. It was her legacy, a living proof that true power lay not in walls, but in the courage to break them down. A legacy of change. Months had passed since Veronica had taken ownership of the Sterling Grand, transforming it into a beacon of inclusivity and progress in the heart of the city. What had once been a fortress of exclusivity had evolved into a vibrant, welcoming space that resonated with people from all backgrounds. But Veronica knew that true change was not just about the present. It was about building a legacy that would endure long after she was gone. And for that, she had one more vision to bring to life. Veronica's final initiative was perhaps her most ambitious yet, the Sterling Scholars Program. She wanted to give back in a way that would have a lasting impact on the next generation, creating opportunities for young people who showed promise but lacked resources. The program would provide scholarships, mentorship, and internship opportunities for students in underserved communities, allowing them to build careers in hospitality, management, and business, fields that had once seemed inaccessible to them. The Sterling Scholars Program would be funded by a portion of the hotel's profits, as well as contributions from local philanthropists and business leaders who supported Veronica's mission. She hoped that through this initiative, the Sterling Grand would not only be a hotel, but also a stepping stone for young minds, a place where dreams could be nurtured, skills could be developed, and futures could be built. To launch the program, Veronica planned a grand event, a celebration that would mark the culmination of her journey at the Sterling Grand and the beginning of a new chapter. Invitations went out to community leaders, educators, business owners, hotel staff, and former guests. It was to be a night of unity, celebration, and commitment to the future. As the day of the event approached, Veronica found herself reflecting on how far the hotel had come. She thought back to the moment when she had first been turned away at the door, the sting of rejection mingling with a resolve to create something better. She had transformed that moment of exclusion into a force for change, and now she was preparing to pass that vision on to others. On the evening of the event, the Sterling Grand was resplendent. The grand ballroom was adorned with elegant floral arrangements and soft lighting that gave the room a warm, welcoming glow. Guests arrived in elegant attire, filling the room with laughter, conversation, and a palpable sense of excitement. The ballroom had never felt so alive, so brimming with possibility. Veronica mingled with the guests, exchanging greetings and receiving words of admiration and gratitude. Many of them marveled at the changes in the hotel, remarking on how different it felt from the cold, exclusive atmosphere it once held. She spoke with local leaders who praised her commitment to the community, teachers who were thrilled about the scholarship opportunities, and former guests who were inspired by the Sterling Grand's transformation. As the evening continued, Veronica took to the stage to deliver her address. The room fell silent as she looked out over the crowd, her heart full of gratitude and pride. She began by sharing her journey, her struggles, her successes, and the vision that had driven her to reshape the Sterling Grand. She spoke of the importance of resilience, the power of inclusivity, and the belief that every person deserved respect and opportunity. "We've come a long way," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But the journey doesn't end here. Tonight, we're not just celebrating the Sterling Grand's transformation. We're celebrating the power of community, the strength of unity, and the legacy of change. She went on to explain the Sterling Scholars Program, describing her hopes for the young people who would benefit from it. This program isn't just about providing scholarships, she continued. It's about creating a pathway for those who have the potential to lead, to innovate, and to inspire. We're investing in their futures so that they can, in turn, lift up their communities and carry this legacy forward. The audience erupted in applause, moved by her words and the depth of her commitment. As the clapping subsided, Veronica gestured toward a group of young people standing at the side of the stage. They were the first cohort of Sterling Scholars, students from local high schools who had been selected for their academic promise, leadership potential, and dedication to making a difference. One by one, the students walked onto the stage, their faces a mixture of awe and determination. Veronica introduced each of them, sharing a brief story about their backgrounds, their dreams, and the impact that the Sterling Scholars Program would have on their lives. Each story was a testament to resilience, to hope, and to the promise of a better future. Among them was a young woman named Talia, a high school senior who dreamed of one day opening her own restaurant. Her family had struggled financially, and college had seemed like a distant hope until she received the Sterling Scholars invitation. Standing beside Veronica on stage, Talia spoke, her voice shaky but full of conviction. "Thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for believing in us," she said. "You've given us more than just scholarships. You've given us a chance to dream, to see a future where we can succeed. I promise I'll make the most of this opportunity, and one day I'll come back to give others the same chance you've given me." Veronica smiled, feeling a lump in her throat as the room once again filled with applause. This moment was the realization of her vision, the legacy she had dreamed of leaving. She had not only transformed a hotel, but had sown the seeds of change that would grow in ways she couldn't even imagine. After the speeches, the guests mingled and celebrated, but the night held one final surprise. Veronica had quietly organized an art auction, featuring works donated by local artists, many of whom had displayed their pieces at the hotel's community open house. All proceeds would go toward expanding the Sterling Scholars Program, allowing even more students to benefit in the coming years. The auction was a success, raising a significant sum and further strengthening the bond between the Sterling Grand and the community. As the last painting was sold, Veronica watched the guests chatting, laughing, and celebrating. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of unity and purpose that went far beyond what she had originally envisioned. Toward the end of the night, Charles Hampton, the head of guest services who had once been so resistant to change, approached her. His usual stoic expression was softened, and there was a look of genuine admiration in his eyes. "Ms. Mitchell," he began, his voice quiet, "I owe you an apology. I didn't believe in your vision at first. I thought that by opening our doors, we'd lose something. But tonight, I see that we've gained something far more valuable." Veronica placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Charles. Change is difficult. I understand that better than anyone, but I'm glad you're here, part of this journey." He nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "The Sterling Grand is a different place now, and I'm proud to be a part of it." As the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, Veronica stood in the center of the grand ballroom, taking in the scene. She had achieved more than she had ever dreamed possible. She had not only redefined luxury, but had redefined what it meant to leave a legacy. The Sterling Grand was now a place where barriers were broken, dreams were nurtured, and futures were built. In the days that followed, the story of the Sterling Scholars Program and the transformation of the Sterling Grand spread across the city, drawing praise and admiration from people near and far. The hotel became known not only for its elegance, but for its heart, for its commitment to creating opportunities and fostering unity. And for Veronica, there was a deep, lasting satisfaction in knowing that she had done more than change a hotel. She had created a legacy of compassion, resilience, and empowerment. The Sterling Grand would stand as a testament to the power of vision, to the strength of community, and to the belief that true luxury was found in the openness to welcome and elevate all. Her journey had started with rejection, but it had ended with triumph. And in her heart, Veronica knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would continue to inspire generations to come.